Woohoo!
So last week, we addressed the issue of why do we work so hard?
Yes.
We went through some of the easy answers that I think that we hear a lot and ended up in kind of a weird place.
Yeah.
After getting through some of the easy answers, why did we decide we ultimately work so hard?
Some of the easy answers, they aren't completely wrong. Things like marketing and capitalism, they sort of have an impact, but ultimately what they're doing is they're affecting this main primal reason for this, and that is that humans just have this instinctual need to work hard in order to justify their existence.
Why do we not like people who don't work?
If you are putting in the same amount of work someone else is, and they're getting more reward, or you're putting in different amount of works and you're still getting the same reward, that triggers something in your brain where it's like, this doesn't make sense to me, that's not fair, and it's like, I deserve more than this.
And that instinct is real and powerful.
Yeah.
It seems to me that if anyone in the world has to work, we all have to work.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a problem when we produce as much per person as we do now. So the question we're going to ask today is, can we escape this? Us continuing just to produce more and more random jobs to keep people justifying their existence so it's fair, that doesn't seem like it's sustainable.
No.
Forever.
It's only going to get worse from here.
Does capitalism have a mechanism to stop this?
No. Capitalism exploits the hell out of this. It has this mechanism where the thing it's kind of founded on is the prioritization of profits, of making more and more and more. Capitalism is not going to be something that stops this sort of fairness productivity issue, because it's the very thing feeding into it.
We've defined three major power structures within capitalism: ownership, consumers, and labor. Is there anything ownership could do to stop us from overworking?
Ownership has this power to set goals for the company, being like, oh, this is what we want to achieve. This is the purpose of the company. It would have to be like the prioritization of people.
So if I'm an owner and I have this change of heart and I reduce production by 50%, how are my competitors going to react to that in capitalism?
They would almost offset what you're doing by filling the hole in the market that you've suddenly made for yourself.
We would still be producing the same amount of cars. It would just be a different company that would produce that many cars.
Yeah. And if everyone suddenly stopped choosing to make more cars, everyone suddenly changed their mindset in that way, then capitalism would be fundamentally altered in that way, because it would no longer be the prioritization of profit.
It would have to be everybody. Every owner would have to have a change of heart.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't seem very likely.
Oh.
Could consumers do anything?
Well, they could stop buying stuff. Everything is sort of made for the consumers. So if the consumers suddenly all stood up and said, we don't want all this stuff anymore, then the companies would kind of be like, oh no, we have all this stuff that we're not able to sell.
So once again, we find out in capitalism, the consumer is ultimately in control.
Yeah. We've seen some things on like smaller scale, like we've seen like the beef boycotts, and they definitely illuminate the power that consumers hold. But on this massive scale where it's like, if everyone just decided to stop buying so much stuff generally, that seems about as likely as ownership massively having a giant change of heart.
What about if capitalism, since it's so good at producing and innovation and everything, was able to produce everything that we now consume as human beings automatically, without human effort?
A lot of the things we have today are random stupid things to exist for the sake of existing, and I don't think that making more of those is going to stop anything. I think people are just going to buy more stupid things.
Consumers, hard to stop them. Like our stuff.
Yeah.
Seems pretty psychologically built into who we are.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not exactly a huge stretch of the imagination to say that humans are built to want things.
What about labor? They're the ones who are working too hard.
Labor's the one that's overproducing.
Right? What could they do?
If labor one day, the entire collective force of labor, one day decided to stop working and not start working again until, like, they could do the absolute bare minimum and get the maximum reward, then that's what would happen.
Do you know what the greatest moment for labor in my lifetime has been?
What?
It just happened over the last 3 years.
during COVID-19, during quarantine, people weren't able to leave their home, so work from home kind of became a necessity. And as a result of that, they found that they were like way more comfortable during work, they were way more in control of their time, and strangely enough, they were also like really productive at home within way less time than they normally were required to go into the office.
So COVID-19 ended 2 or 3 years ago. What's happened in the workforce since?
Companies, by large, have really been pushing people to come into their offices.
And what has been really the collective response from labor?
So they said, no, I don't want to do that.
And companies right now are fighting to get people to come into the office 4 days a week. Can you believe that? In the course of 3 years, we went from every single person, like there was no office where you didn't show up 5 days a week, period, to now where it probably averages about 3 days a week in the office. Collectively, people are just like, no, I'm not coming back in. Have you ever heard of anything like this in American history before?
No, that's not really something that happens.
I've never seen it happen. 3 years, knocking 2 days off the work week. Too bad we're not coming in. And that's literally everyone collectively saying no.
When people come together and they collectively just decide to do something, decide that something's not right, decide to say no, it holds so much power.
It does. And the fact is we can do it, theoretically. But what did it take?
It took a massive world disaster.
The interesting thing about all of those constituents of capitalism, if they want to make a change, it has to be a collective change across all of them.
Yeah.
Can't have some of the owners sitting out.
No.
Can't have some of the consumers just saying no. Can't have some of labor kind of going, I don't think this is going to work for me anymore. It's got to be collective action.
Yeah. And that's why people on the internet, I think, turn to the government to stop this. It's meant to be sort of like this small group that speaks for the larger population.
We have a collective that's supposed to represent us all. That's the state.
Yes.
Could the state do anything to stop us from overworking?
Definitely. It's influenced by, like, the people that are in the state, the people that control the state. And those people are influenced by, like, these companies. So a lot of times the state doesn't really prioritize not producing as much or, like, labor. But for COVID-19, yeah, a lot of that was people's reaction to that. Like, a lot of people wouldn't have gone outside anyway. But, like, this, like, the government just, like, issuing, like, one giant quarantine, that was this thing that was sort of, like, the start of this, like, result that we're seeing now of people just saying, I don't really want to come into work today. They are sort of the collective. They are the people meant to represent everyone else. And so if they say no, then it becomes a lot easier for everyone else to say no, too.
Let's talk about the sort of granddaddy of them all, of state control of the economy. Communism. What would the state have to do in order to seize control of the means of production? What do you think the state has to do to property owners if it wants to seize control of ownership?
Kill them.
Yeah, literally that's the right answer. People will not give up their property to the state unless they're
dead. Yeah. Violence
is the answer.
As it often is.
For the state.
For the state.
Right? That's its only ultimate power it has.
Yeah.
Also probably have to make sure that no one was secretly disobeying these rules, right?
Yeah.
Probably want to...
get some secret police in there.
There you go.
Definitely want to issue a lot of propaganda about this stuff.
Going to definitely have to get your messaging machine. They might have to seize control of the media.
Of the media. Maybe need to kind of curb that, like, right to free speech.
And in communism, strictly, of course, those leaders are chosen by themselves. The ruling party, the Communist Party, chooses who's the leaders. What do you think? Do you think we have a group of people that you trust enough to do that for the rest of us?
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Let's tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that we call democratic socialism. How might that work?
That government could probably get the situation a little better. They would probably increase minimum wage, reduce the work week, get some, like, basic rights, like universal health care.
It has happened, right?
Yes,
it's all throughout Europe. That's largely a system that has been put in place.
Yeah, and even in the US, although, like, we're kind of fighting it for right now, we have shortened the work week before, because originally we had it way worse we had longer work days, longer work weeks. And so the government the people have done things to sort of like shorten the amount of time that we're working. And there's no reason why we can't do it again.
So let's say that I am an employee.
Yeah.
And 30 hours a week just is not producing me the lifestyle that I want.
Gotcha.
What do I do?
Work longer.
Do you think that ownership is going to allow me to work longer than 30 hours a week if it's going to cost them double?
Nope.
What am I going to do?
Get a second job.
Overtime for that second job?
No, that's not going to happen.
No overtime for that second job. So now, as opposed to getting the hours that I wanted from a single employer, I now have to somehow juggle two employers.
Now that we have a 40-hour work week, some people still need to get like second jobs on the side, but that's not seen as the ideal. The ideal is working 9 to 5, doing a 40-hour work week. And so by changing the work week, we can change society's perception of work weeks. And by making that 30 hours, some people still might work like a second job on the side in order to afford a private college, but it's still going to be a better society, a better perception of work than we have right now, especially if they increase the pay to go with that. And that will also lead to more changes in that perception of work.
So it seems like the state could do something.
It definitely has something.
And has done that before.
Has done that.
So we've talked about capitalism itself doing something. Seems like all three participants in capitalism, consumers, labor, ownership, would have to collude together in order to make that happen. We talked about our naturally collusive body, the state, and it could do something, but depending on how much it wanted to do, it would have to curtail our individual freedom equally.
Yeah.
Another possibility. What about individuals? We've talked about individuals being really the problem because we all have this sense of fair is fair. Is there any context in which individuals willingly choose to give up that fair is fair?
One parent goes to work and one parent stays at home to take care of the kids thing, which is still sort of fair in that you're putting in some work, but one person is the main source of income and one person is the main source of like childcare and like home rearing duty.
So that might work with husbands and wives because they love each other. What about this family? How does it work here?
Kids don't work.
Don't produce anything.
No.
Big consumers though, right?
Definitely.
So families are an example.
Definitely.
Where we don't stick to this fair is fair thing. Let's expand it a little further then. Tribes.
No one on the tribe is doing the same equal amount of stuff all the time. So they're still going to take care of like the old people. And the kids, they're not going to work as hard as everyone else. And no one's really going to have that huge of an issue with it because like, hey, they're kids.
What if I encounter an old person from a different tribe?
No, kill them.
Who cares, right?
Kill them.
Not interested.
Not interested.
Well, and we can expand this out even a little further than the tribal dynamic. We live in a village. Is it all fair is fair around here?
No. There's a lot of that same priority around family, but to like a larger scale. A lot of people don't have like the most formal of jobs. There's more priority on communal living where like, hey, you do one thing and I do the other thing. We're not going to worry so much about like whether like we're like perfectly equally exchanging.
An easy example that happens literally every week in our village. Someone can't afford a medical procedure. They throw a barbecue. Everybody comes and pays for the food. They can pay for the procedure.
Yeah.
Right? We can certainly get over the fair is fair thing in our families. And then as we slowly get away from the family to larger units,
less and less.
It becomes less and less. What is becoming less and less?
It's so hard when it's millions of people instead of just like a dozen of them to feel any personal connection to them because you don't know their names. You don't know their lives, you know their stories, you haven't had a conversation with this person randomly on the other side of the continent. All the bigotry that exists everywhere is that people don't like people that are different and that they aren't the same.
So it's easy for human beings to care about things that are close to themselves. It's easy to care about ourselves, easy to care about our families, still care about our communities, but broadening that out to the rest of the world.
How we can really stop this issue and we can really sort of solve this whole problem of like fairness is we can choose to care about people. Because it's easy to care for yourself, for your family, for your community, It's easy to care about people that are similar to you to a certain extent, but by allowing, like, just human kindness and sympathy to be prioritized over any personal relation to someone, by choosing to care about just humanity as a whole, but every person individually, just like every day, you're able to tear down this invisible barrier and stop caring about what's so fair for you personally and your community personally, what's, good for everyone.
I've always cared more about all of us being able to play the game than my position in the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just want a game that we can all play in, and feel like we're having a good time.
Speaking from personal experience of like playing board games with you, I gotta say to be honest that that's definitely not true. But maybe on a wider scale, it's true.
Yeah, maybe on a wider scale, it's true. All right.
We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.